And just like that, I'm back. Did you miss me? Did you even notice I was gone? Probably not, that's alright. I'm excited for this video because today I'm going to be sharing with you the 10 most valuable pieces of advice I have for all magicians. I've now been doing magic for over 10 years, so consider this the 10 best life lessons that I have for magicians, and believe me when I say, number 10 on this list is by far the most valuable piece of advice I can give. And it's something that I have really taken to heart, and it affects everything I do in magic now. But if I do say so myself, there's a lot of great advice on this list, so let's kick off with number 1, which is quite simply one word: perform. Whether it's performing for money or performing for free, whether it's performing for weddings and corporate clients, or whether it's performing for friends and family, my advice is simple: perform. Magic is a performance art, and I think that you learn so much more by performing. Now, don't get me wrong, I know there'll be people watching this video who are hobbyists, who just learn magic for the sake of learning it, and they're quite happy doing it on their own as a solitary activity. And believe me, I used to be one of you. I used to do that exact same thing and found a lot of joy in it. But the moment I switched from doing that to performing in front of real audiences, it genuinely changed my life. Like, the change was massive, and I think it is so important for magicians to perform, even if you don't think you're going to be good at it, even if you think it's going to go wrong and disastrous and terrible. It probably won't. In fact, it most likely won't, because if you've spent enough time practicing, it will be good. There is nothing quite like seeing an audience experience the magic, the truly impossible, and them taking that memory with them for the rest of their lives. Magic can be life-changing, but it can only be life-changing when you perform it. So that is my first piece of advice. Moving on to the second piece of advice, which is a really good one. Read magic books. It's hard to put into words on camera the difference a magic book can make to you learning magic. Like, of course, downloads and magic tutorials are very easy to watch, easily accessible. You can have it on and you can just soak up the magic knowledge, and that's great. Don't get me wrong, I love those things. But there is nothing quite like a magic book. They are literal gold mines of material, and there's something so special about learning a trick from a book. You can take it at your own pace, you can flick backwards and forwards, and simply from a value for money point of view, magic books are always going to come out on top. But not just that, when you find a really beautiful secret in a magic book, it feels like you've earned it somehow. Like, reading a magic book is obviously a little bit more difficult than just watching a tutorial. And so that little extra difficulty, that little extra effort of having to go through the book and find it, just elevates the experience so much more. Now, I realize that some people might watch this and go, it's a bit of a dated piece of advice. Magic books? Really, Cavan? Aren't you an advocate for learning magic in the best way possible? And yes, of course I am. I run a membership for magicians, for God's sake. The whole point of that is learning from videos. I think that is such a valuable resource. But magic books, I don't think they're gonna go away. I think they're here to stay, and they're here to be loved. So read magic books. Piece of advice number 3 is about magic products, actually, and it's this. Set a budget for your magic spending. Magic products are very enticing, and believe me, when I started out in magic, I wanted them all. I wanted as many magic products as possible, and I was completely sucked in by the flashy trailers and the product names and the descriptions. It hooked me, right? I wanted a piece of that action. But I had to learn the hard way and the expensive way that is not always the best way of learning magic. You are going to spend a lot of money, and each time you do, each time you buy a magic product, it's a risk, right? You are taking a risk because it might not be what you expected, it might be poor quality, it might just not work, or it might not be your style. So nowadays, in the present day, when I buy a magic product, it has to fulfill certain criteria in order for me to press add to basket. But ultimately, what I'm saying is take a little care and set budgets. Do not just be buying everything, do not be spending loads of money on magic products. Set, I don't know, a monthly budget. This is what I'm gonna spend on magic, absolute maximum. And if you wanna buy something more expensive than that budget, then save up for a couple of months, 3 or 4 months, however much, to buy that product. But yeah, take care, don't waste your money, and make sure that you're buying responsibly when it comes to magic, because the temptation is very, very strong, I know. Number 4 on this list almost didn't make it onto the list, but actually it is really, really important, and the more I thought about it, the more important I realized it was. 2 words for you: pocket management. Super important, especially if you're a gigging magician, if you're a working professional. Oh my goodness, pocket management is absolutely crucial as a magician. And I'll extend this kind of even further than pocket management, just management of props in general, of how you organize your repertoire, what goes in, what goes out. I could talk for hours on this, but I'll focus just on pocket management because I've mentioned my first ever gig a couple of times on this channel. It was an absolute disaster, right? A load of stuff went wrong, but the number one mistake I made at that gig when I was completely inexperienced was pocket management. I took every single trick I knew. I was loaded, like the Michelin Man, I always say. I had so much stuff in my jacket pockets, and I just didn't know what to perform. I'd taken too much, and so it took me quite a long time to realize that you need to know exactly what goes where so that you can go from one trick to another super quick. Like, you know exactly where everything is, and that will help your performance so much. It cannot be understated how important pocket management is. So that is why it is my fourth piece of advice. And number 5 on the list, oh yeah, number 5 is an important one. Number 5 is don't be a dick in comment sections. You know what I'm talking about. We've all seen the comments. This is a widespread issue in the magic community. This is something that happens not just to me. This isn't a me problem. I see this all the time on Instagram and TikTok and so on, of people making really nasty, and by nasty I mean like passive aggressive or sarcastic comments to other magicians who are performing a trick. Every time you see a magician performing a trick, the likelihood is there's a comment down below saying something along the lines of, "Ooh, nice double lift." You know, telling everyone that they know it's a double lift, but they're sort of wrapping it up in a strange compliment. Or sometimes it won't even be wrapped up in a compliment. Sometimes it'll just be a comment under a perfect performance that isn't flashing, that isn't doing anything wrong, and there'll be a magician in the comments confidently telling everyone else that they know how it's done. It's okay guys, I know how it's done. This is exactly how it's done. Honestly, those people can get in the bin. I do not like it at all. If you're a magician and you're commenting on another magician's work and you know how it's done, guess what? So do they. Number 6, practice, 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 but not too much. And I'll explain what I mean by that. But first of all, practice is so important. Obviously, you need to be able to practice the tricks until you can do them in your sleep. Of course you do. Yes, absolutely. But what I mean by not too much is, I've been guilty of this in the past. I have burnt myself out from practicing, right? I have spent days, 16-hour days, just practicing non-stop. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, I've just been practicing. And I've hurt my wrists from the repetitive movement of practicing sleight of hand. I've had to have ice packs on my wrist at the end of the day because I've pushed it way too far, right? Do not do that. And do not let a bad practice session ruin your day either. I used to get so wound up, so in my head about it when I'd spent the whole day practicing something and still not nailed it. I used to just feel awful about myself, and that is not what magic should make you feel. That is not okay, so practice in the right doses. Number 7, create your own style. A while ago on Craig Petty's YouTube channel, I was interviewed and I spoke about this quite honestly from my point of view. The fact that I really struggled to do this. I struggled to create my own style for a very long time. I always felt like I was just copying other magicians, like I was just replicating exactly what I saw other people do, and it always felt like a jigsaw that never quite went together. It didn't feel like me, it didn't feel genuine, and because of that, it held my performances back quite a bit. And it took me a good number of years to really land on a performance style that suits me, that feels unique, that feels totally genuine. And that is a journey that is really difficult to go on, and I am certainly not a finished product. I have not arrived at the final version of my performance style. I don't think I ever will, truly. I don't think I will ever arrive at that. But in order to find it, it's a journey, it's a process, and that is something that you have to discover on your own. What I will say is, if you're starting out in magic and you're struggling to find a performance style, I think it's perfectly okay to copy what other magicians are doing to a certain extent, or copy other characters outside of magic, you know, musicians or comedians, and just say, yeah, I'll perform in the style of that person, and just see how it works. You know, try on different outfits, metaphorically and physically, I suppose, and just see what works. Take your time in finding your way of doing magic. And don't let, ironically, don't let other people tell you what to do. When it comes to style, don't let anyone tell you how you should or shouldn't perform magic. That is your choice, and no one not on the internet, not in person, not ever, should ever tell you what is the right and wrong way of performing. Piece of advice number 8 is don't limit yourself too early. And what I mean by this, again, if you're starting out in magic, if you consider yourself a beginner, then don't limit yourself. Don't put yourself in a box of what magic you do and what magic you don't too early on. Don't say, oh, I'm a card magician. That is all I do, I'm a card magician. What, coin magic, mentalism, escapology? Nah, never tried it, never will. I am a card magician through and through, because you don't know. If you've just started, you have no idea. So my advice is, try all sorts of magic. Try every different style of magic. At least give it a go. And if you find out that it's not for you, and at the end of the day you are still a card magician, then fine. That is great. At least you tried. At least you explored the other options. What I'm saying is, experiment. See what's out there. There's loads of different types of magic, and if you put yourself in a box or put yourself on a path too soon, whatever metaphor you want to use, box or path, it doesn't matter. If you do that too soon, you're never gonna know what is out there. You're never gonna know what you missed out on. So give it a go. Number 9, make mistakes and learn from them and enjoy making mistakes. I can't count on 2 hands or even 3 hands or 4 hands how many times magic tricks have gone wrong in front of audiences. And that makes me sound like a bad magician, but it's not. It's because I try bold methods. I try brand new methods. I experiment with things, and sometimes those things just flop, and I'm not scared of that anymore. I used to be terrified of it. Loads of stuff used to just terrify me that I wouldn't do in front of an audience. Deck switches, I would never try it. Signature duplication, oh my gosh, no, you wouldn't catch me dead doing a signature duplication. And then gradually, I just found the courage to try these bold methods and realized that actually the more you do it, the more you make the mistakes, the more you learn from them, the better you become, not just at those things, but as a magician in general. But number 10, like I said, is the most valuable piece of advice I can give to any magician. And if you've watched this channel for any number of days or years or whatever, you might be able to guess what I'm about to say. And that is, make your magic memorable. Performance is everything. It's not about the tricks. It's never been about the tricks, never been about the methods. Complete load of rubbish. The day that I realized that was the day I became a better magician. And I'm not standing here saying I'm the best magician in the world, or that these pieces of advice are the best pieces of advice in the world. Absolutely not the case. Not at all. I'm still learning as a magician, and I'm still on this journey. That's what this YouTube channel is about. It's about my journey through magic. And it's not over yet, it's not done. Like I say, I'm not the complete version of myself. But if there's one thing that I would pass on to my past self and that I would pass on to other magicians, it's that performance is absolutely everything. Doesn't matter what tricks you're doing, make it entertaining, make it memorable, and give the audience that magical memory, like I say, that they will take with them for the rest of their life. There is nothing like it whatsoever. So those are my 10 pieces of advice from 10 years in magic. I loved putting together this list over the past few weeks of just really taking my time to think about what should be included and what shouldn't. And I'm sure I've missed a ton of stuff, so make sure to leave your advice down in the comments. Let's open up a helpline down in the comments. I don't know, a chat room, what do you call it? I can't think of the words. Leave your piece of advice down in the comments and make sure to read everyone else's piece of advice, and we can share pieces of advice. It'll be great. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button down below on your way out, as you always do. That is wonderful. And if you're new to the channel and this is your sort of vibe, we do anything and everything to do with magic here. So if that sounds like fun, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Until then.